I want to just start by acknowledging Jeannie, Bob, and Diane for inviting us all and me into their lovely home. And I also wanted to acknowledge each and everybody here because, it's one thing to have this stuff just be an item of, interest or entertainment, but I'd like to believe that everyone by their own paths have walked to this place so that we could all be together to, just have a certain kind of question in our hearts, in our minds about what's a life really worth? How do we move in the world in a way that makes sense, like with grace, honoring the power that we are a part of, and the dreams that we have, for our loved ones, and for all the great work that we're here to do in the world. So that's everything that the system means to me, and I want to honor everyone for being a part of that today. And of all the things you could have done on a Saturday, chose to do this. So it's a beautiful thing. So Amanda, if you could. Just before we move on. So 52 Secrets, Tales of the Magi, in a sense, sometimes a title can speak to the entirety of the subject. And so I wanted to just, as an inroad into this material, say that, so the 52 cards, it's also 52 weeks, as we'll explore. The whole card system is actually a calendar. And that's not an accident, and that's actually what makes it such a powerful symbol, because obviously a calendar has to do with change, and it kind of fixes these moments in time, but it also releases them as things move and change. And the whole notion of secrets. There's, I think, all kinds of different ways we could talk about secrets, but the most amazing secrets are the ones that continue to reveal themselves. So if we're talking about what we really truly are, I believe we're a secret that will never fully be revealed. And luckily that gives us a lot of time to figure out what is a life worth, what is going on here. So and the Magi. So I'm going to try to structure this talk. I'm kind of a nerdy, heady, weird guy, and so I'm going to try to tone all that stuff down and tell stories as much as I can about this stuff, because each of these slides could be a lecture in itself, and I just want to kind of give you different glimpses of this stuff, and I hope you enjoy it. So can you press the space bar or something, or the trackpad too? Yeah. All right. So this image is from Olney Richmond's book. We'll speak about him more at length, but OOM stands for Order of the Magi, and this kind of interesting quote here. I teach by means of symbols truth, and I think it says a lot. Basically, the whole card system functions on symbols, and the interesting thing about symbols is that oftentimes you can read a symbol, but like we were talking about with mystery. We're talking. If you look at a symbol, it doesn't stop revealing something if you really keep looking. And it's also, symbols function in a way in which many people can look at it and understand it. Maybe even if they don't speak the same language. Likewise, people can look at a symbol and see different things in it. So I think. As a starting point with this whole system, it's really powerful to consider it a symbolic system. when you look at the work of the ancients, when you look at mystics of all traditions, you see that that they focus their meditations on mystery or on truth, on symbols, because they're so open-ended, and because of the danger of our minds to try to capture things and think that if we have a word for it, we know it. We know it to its core. So that'll be like a kind of a running theme of our inquiry this morning, is thinking about how in this day and age, in this industrial age, in this information age, what's the danger of thinking that we know things? I could even just start by saying, in a relationship, like with my wife and I, what I see as a guiding principle of the heart is this challenge of having this person in my life who is truly at her core a mystery that's unfolding, right? And the danger in a relationship is saying, oh, you're this way, you're that way, I'm this way, I'm that way. And the danger is with those ideas and those habits, if I fall into those things, then I can end up, trying to capture something that, had nothing to do with how we met or the things we felt in each other's presence. So when we think of symbols, it's powerful to hold them open and to think we can never truly capture their meaning. To treat them as something that is revealing itself, like we're in a conversation that will continue. Just to go a little bit further into this, so there's a pyramid, and there are 7 stars above, so there are other things going on as well here. If you count, so we'll go into them more later, but the number 7 we'll spend a little time with too, and the pyramid also refers back to the system's connection with antiquity. Press the space bar, thanks. So to start, I want to start again, if we're going to talk about symbols, about the work of this gentleman, Frank Higgins, because I think he really opened my eyes, and I had an aha moment reading his book, Cross of the Magi. At the end, I'll give all the references to all these works so you can follow them up on your own. I have a scribed account that has these books posted online, so you could read them at your leisure, and I've tried to put some annotations of the pages that I've found really notable. So these guys wrote a pamphlet called Cross of the Magi, and Frank Higgins was a Mason, and so it's interesting that you'll see again with the card system and with his work in Cross of the Magi that some of the Masons were really, really trying to figure out where do the symbols that have been passed on to us come from, and what are the deeper truths that they speak to, the bigger, deeper mysteries. His book came out. This pamphlet came out in 1905. It's a pretty thin volume. It's only about 50 pages or so. If you could advance it, thanks. So this is the aha moment that I had. Higgins basically said that it's conceivable that humanity's first symbol was a line. And there's the second symbol that was drawn was a horizontal line. And possibly the third, a circle around those 2 lines. And so in this, you could consider, this, our ancestor, as like the first alchemist, the first shaman, or, one of the most prominent shamans that we could, all through different cultures and traditions see as, as a forefather. Because when you look at the symbol, it speaks to what the alchemists would say, as above, so below. The 4 lines could define the 4 directions. They also, essentially, in connecting it with the stars and with the movement of our planet, could fix the moments of the equinoxes and the solstices. So basically setting the main calendar of the year, through which so many of our life's work revolved around, knowing when the planting seasons were, when the turning the seasons were, determined life and death. But it also kind of it also, through this, the initiation of this symbol, connected humanity's inner world with that of the planet and the stars. So when we look at the spiritual traditions of the world, it's that aim, of trying to create wholeness. Where's our place, but also how do we notice patterns that connect our inner experience with that of anything and everything we can see. So I would say that this also functions in a different way when you look at, say, a medicine wheel, or if you look at the mandala principle in Buddhism or in Hinduism, because the directions connect with the elements, and they also are placeholders for everything in the phenomenal world. So can someone give an example of that? What I mean by what's the connection between fire and anything else in the world? Love, right?
I said
exactly.
blood, actually.
Blood, exactly. Blood, yeah. So the blood in our bodies, the breath is wind, the spaces would be space, again, the 5th element. But bone could be like earth. So exactly. And then we could go on and say that this could be connected with a clock. So you'd have noon and midnight. You'd have dawn and dusk. So again, oftentimes east would be connected with dawn, right? That's when the sun rises. So you can start to see how a simple diagram like this is possibly, the beginning of language, and how there's the last thing I'll say is it's kind of the beginning of magic, where our inner world was through this person's initiating movement, created an outer representation of what was going on inside that echoed everything in the world around him or her. So you could advance the slide. So I wanted to, we're kind of jumping ahead in a sense, in that this is from Olney Richmond's book, who brought this card system above ground. But I wanted to show you what I meant in the connection between, as above, so below, in relation with the cards as well. So here's our central cross. Here's the spring equinox right here, summer solstice, autumnal equinox, and that's the winter solstice right there. So there's a way in which the cards follow this cycle of the year. The heart suit fire would be in spring. The club suit wind is in summer, where everything's blooming. The wind element being like the kind of energy that flows and causes things to grow. This is the earth element, autumn, during the harvest time, up through the spades element, water. And in water you see the most phases, ice, liquid, vapor. So in a sense, through that transformation, you could talk about this as an entire life as well, from birth through to death, releasing. This spade is upside down, but again, with the first spade you saw, it has a vanishing point. So too, it's almost like the way in which. I'm not going to speak on this too long. This is also from Frank Higgins' book, and it gets into much more complex stuff having to do with the ancients' insight into the calendar, into that above as above, so below stuff we were talking about before. But I just wanted to connect what we were looking at with numbers. You saw it before in a grid, but I wanted to just show you that. So this center here we have 4, right? So again, it's the 4 seasons and all that. If you look at the next section of grid, it comes to 12. So again, there's the zodiac, and if we look throughout the world, we'll see the zodiac in cultures from the Middle East to all over. And there are other numerical connections here too as well. If you add the numbers in these corners, you end up with 52. If you add these ones in I believe it's these in the corners. So there's other symbolism that the ancients were working with, and if you can advance to the next slide, you'll see that when you see nested crosses, you see everything from some of what Pythagoras was working with, the 47th problem of Euclid, to just the simplicity of the medicine wheel, and again the seasons. I think as I was entering to the right, there's a painting that shows like these stepped crosses called chacana from Incan culture, but they were also, you'll see versions of them that are triangular in the southwest. But if you're looking at, there are different, some that are artistic or have other significance, but if you're looking at a certain one and you count the points of the corners, you get 12. So again, these are symbols that have visual beauty, but they also had real significance in ancient culture in connecting ourselves and our inner experience with the world and the stars. So yeah, I'm not saying it explicitly because we're focusing on this material right here, but when some of the people from the card systems talk about this system and how ancient it is, these are the connections that are found that are really, really clear. So this is just one more iteration. This is the stepped cross I was referring to. This is like one of the, hardly talked about Nazca line images that you can find. It's called Estrella. It's called the star. But if you count these corners, here's your stepped cross: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And again, here in the center, you have your cross with the equinoxes and solstices. And some researcher has mapped this out and the distances, and he also claims that it corresponds with the temple that was referred to and the proportions in the Bible, and also has correspondences to the pyramids as well. So this, as this is about as far, I guess, out as we'll go in terms of the connection with the stars. The last really amazing thing that we notice about the ancients is that they were tracking movements of the stars for long periods of time. In fact, over 25,000 year periods of time up to 52,000 year periods of time. What we're looking at here is there's a tilt in the Earth, and there's also a wobble that happens as the Earth turns. So that wobble, the way it affects the way the stars move, it actually creates this thing called the precession of the equinoxes, where the zodiac moves backwards through the sky, but very, very slowly. It takes 25,000 years to move one time around. But interestingly enough, with the number 52, if you account the same position in the sky and the entire movement of the zodiac, that's a full cycle of 52,000 years. So we have the number 52 again. So this is really powerful, mysterious. Like, how do you get astronomers to keep notes about something that moves so slowly, and that they were able to track it? Are we talking inspiration, from the stars speaking to them themselves? Are we talking traditions that of antiquity that have faded to a whisper or have seemingly disappeared? Plato talked about this, and in other cultures we see it as well, like in the Mayan culture. And again, with that number 52, there's some questions about a connection with whoever the mystics were who brought the card system to us as well. So moving on, I want to talk about Olney Richmond, and this is where the storytelling, I think, will get have a little more continuity. This guy he put this book out. This is actually, I own a copy of this book. This is a picture of the cover of his book called The Mystic Test Book. And again, I have a copy of it online on my Scribed account, so you can read it at your leisure. But he, if you advance to the next slide, I'll start telling his story. This is from another book that he wrote called, it's called Yenlo and the Mystic Brotherhood. It tells his story about how he met this order, someone from the Order of the Magi, on a Tennessee battlefield, during the Civil War. He was like a Union scout, and so he was on duty, and he was approached by this kind of wispy Frenchman who knew his name. And the Frenchman said, "Yeah, well, good to meet you. Your name's Richmond, and I was, told by my people that you'd be here, and your first name is Yenlo." And he said, "You got my last name right, but my name isn't Yenlo, it's Olney." And he said, "Well, yeah, that's only backwards. You're Yenlo, and we've been waiting for you." And he said, "I'm going to die soon, and I need to pass this information on to you. So come meet me at my house, and we'll talk." And so he went and met with him, and the gentleman told him that he learned this science while he was in India. And that's pretty much all we know about the Order of the Magi, besides the science behind the cards. He told the man, "Look, I think he was in his 20s, he said, "I don't even know if I'm going to survive this war. Why are you passing it on to me?" And the man reassured him that he would. He said he had a couple close calls where there were times where he suddenly moved without thought and escaped sniper fire or sure death. He lived to do more research and finally published the book, like I cited on the former slide, in 1895. Thank you. So who were the Magi? It's again this question, this question is pretty open-ended. We can see, definite threads of them, their work and their religion through the Chaldeans, through the Persians, and all throughout the Middle East. But I want to also, like I was saying, holding who the Magi are as an open-ended kind of question, consider that their role as astronomers could also obviously connect them with the stars in many different ways. So Richmond, this is another picture from Richmond's book, the Mystic Test book. He claims that the card system actually doesn't go back just to Egypt or through the Magi. It goes back 20,000 years to Atlantis. And again, even like the Magi, and who we'll revisit in a second, the whole notion of Atlantis is, I say, let's hold it as an open question. There's a lot of speculation as to where it is. Richmond said he believed that it was in the Azores. I got really excited a little while ago when fisherman was doing sounding of the depths near the Azores and claimed to find this pyramid. I think there might be some question about the validity of that. It may be that his depth finder was just not sophisticated enough, but who knows? But back to Atlantis. So supposedly the country of Atlantis, the land of Atlantis, had 4 rivers, and there was a outer kind of moat and then a central one with a castle in the middle where 4 royal families lived. So again, even in the notion of Atlantis, we have this whole this story, this symbolic story of the card system again. If you look at Hindu Tantra or Buddhist Tantra, you can see within the mandala principle there's this notion of kulas. And so again, we could talk about these families as having really existed in antiquity, or we could also talk about them as almost like, royal family pairs or triplicities, husband, wife, and a child within the nature of the elements themselves. So we could be talking about, kind of an anthropomorphized or like a humanized vision of the mystery of fire, the mystery of water, the mystery of air, the mystery of earth, or the mystery of space. I think Plato mentioned that, it was Atlantis' excesses that were, connected with their demise, and that it happened through a cataclysm. I think it's worth mentioning again, in terms of how this work of meditating on the cards and looking at these principles of the elements, if you look at amazing cultures like, again, I have experience with the Tibetan culture, they create stupas which are built like we saw in that shaman who was drawing a cross in the sand, built on the cardinal directions, built with incredible intention, honoring the 5 elements, with the intention of balancing environmental pollutants. But the key environmental pollutants are ourselves, because of the way in which we believe that our desires are, our own desires, me against you, are the source of happiness. So I'd like to connect what the Tibetans talk of and what a lot of, of these holy sites that were created, if they really function to balance earth energies, it's because they have the principle of the nature of the elements again. It's that as above, so below thing. So in this story that Plato tells, maybe it was that they lost touch, or maybe there were mystics who were holding the heart of this tradition alive. Maybe other people lost touch and started just chasing their own desires, and Atlantis fell beneath the sea. So again, who are the Magi? We're looking at an image, that was from Ezekiel's vision, partly. We're looking at the connection with the Bible now. If you look at this circle, we're looking at the fixed signs of the zodiac. This is Taurus. This is what's it called? Aquarius. This would be Scorpio, and that's Leo. So once again, we have another layer of connection. When we talk about these ancient systems, we can trace it through different cultures and see that they're right there. I want to follow a couple more things that connect the Bible with this tradition as well on a mystical level. So again, like I said, who are the Magi? If we step back to a symbolic level as well, this is the insight of some people who look at one layer of meanings within the Bible as celestial and astrological symbolic teachings. And so what we find is during the time of the birth of Christ, when it's celebrated around the 25th, the sun, it rises, and it rises right in the place where Orion and Sirius line up. So they point to the place where the sun rises on the 25th. So again, you have the story of the three kings following the star. And I could talk more about Sirius too at great length some other time. But there's some speculation as why the Earth is wobbling. It could be that our star has its own partner star, say a sister star, and there's some speculation that could even be Sirius. This is the other really odd kind of connection with the card system, and it comes from the Book of Revelations. And there's this collection of pamphlets from the early 1900s, a group called the Star of the Magi, and there's a small article in there that goes into the Book of Revelations at length. And these other two ladies who are amazing teachers of this card system, Florence Campbell and Evelyn, I forget her last name, it's in the references at the end. Someone recently sold their collection of their library on eBay, and so I watched with great interest to what their books were, to try to follow again the threads of this system and figure where it goes back to. So I got one book that it has a mystical interpretation of the Book of Revelations as well, which gets into some of the celestial stuff. But this may have been passed on to Olney Richmond. This probably was passed on to Olney Richmond from his teacher. But I'm going to quote from John's vision in Revelations. So it says, "And when the seven thunders had uttered their voices, I was about to write, but I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Seal up those things uttered by the seven thunders, and write them not. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand and devoured it, and to my taste it was sweet as honey, But as soon as I had devoured it, it became bitter unto my inside. And he said unto me, You must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. So that's from Revelation 10, the 4th, 10th, and 11th lines. So this is from Durer's his interpretation of it, and it shows John eating the little book. And so in Olney Richmond's book, the Mystic Test book, he talks about this and said that he believes the little book is the card deck. And he says, how many little books do you know that you could fit in, the palm of your hand? If you look at Robert Camp, who is, probably responsible for Amanda introducing this whole system to me. His company, publishing company, is called Seven Thunders. One interpretation of the Seven Thunders is that they are the 7 planets. So, one interpretation of this would be that the 7 planets spoke to John, and he was about to write his insights, and the angel told him not to speak. Again, in this whole notion of not to speak, we're talking again about how if we hold symbols with reverence, right, there's a way in which they're self-secret. There's a way in which they can be so mysterious that we never will exhaust their meanings. There's also another way in which, sadly, in the past, what we've seen is that these traditions have hidden this knowledge, with some probably important intentions that it not be misused or misunderstood, but also, maybe for their own profit and gain. So, if, Olney Richmond's teacher was correct, if this little book was this system of the cards, then what we do really see is that it has been used without people knowing anything of the mysteries hidden in them. It's so striking to me that you could say to someone, go to 7-Eleven and get me a mystical book. And it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and you could do that. And yet, and fortunes have been won and lost with these pages, without anyone having any idea the other powers that they possess. Mm-hmm. 20? Oh, 40? Almost 40 minutes? Okay. All right, so I want to wrap this up soon, so I'm going to just touch on some of these things lightly. This is Milton Pottinger's symbolism book. He was a Mason as well, and there's a lot of really great information about the symbolism of the individual cards. He goes through the numbers as well at length. Again, if we're to look at this whole system, we would say symbol, or we would say color, so there are black suits and red suits, and then there's number, 1 through 13, and then there's symbol. Both in the way in which the pips are set up with the suits, in the suits themselves, and then in the face cards. Advance it. This is Willis Whitehead. He wrote the Mystic Thesaurus. In that, he shows also some kind of mystical knowledge of the cards by demonstrating the same calendar that Olney Richmond uses, that shows the correspondence of the suits with the seasons. And he also speaks a little bit about Henry Agrippa and some of that, and intimates that he may have the knowledge of these cards as well as the Rosicrucians. So I'm going to touch lightly on what is the science of the cards, how does it really function, because there's everyone's birthday, which you'll see in a minute. So that determines what card you are, but there are other complexities of this that are within this plate and the next plate. So if you see, again, if we talk about the number 7, you see the 7 by 7 grid here. And so you have the planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. And then again at the bottom you have Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. So this functions as a grid. So this would be the Neptune line, the Mercury column, right? This would be the Mercury line and the Neptune column right there with the 7 of hearts. So this spirit spread, it goes from right to left, which is interesting. If it's not an affectation, then again we have this possibility that the system reaches back to antiquity. You have Chaldean language, Hebrew language, Arabic, all reads right to left. So, if I were to create a system with numbers because of our own, language, the way we write, I would naturally write it the opposite. But again, you have this as when we looked at the calendar, you have this as the main sequence of the cards. You start with the Ace of Hearts, so the heart suit, and then again in summer it goes to the club suit, and then to the diamond suit, and it finishes with the spades. You see it wraps around to the top. This is the crown line. So the way I understand this, it's almost like we're looking at a shadow of the inner sun or something, where we've taken this and put it in a perfect order, but obviously in terms of mystery it wouldn't be in sequence because there'd be no time. So we're just looking at a shadow of something that's beyond time, the way the elements all dance together beyond time. But it has a function, as you'll see with the next plate. So this is the next plate, and this is from Olney Richmond's book again. It was just, he didn't, in his book he doesn't explain actually how to perform the science of the cards that would give you the information that the system really, how it really functions for someone who can read these cards. So again, even though Olney Richmond received this information, he kept it secret. He gave other things within the book that are kind of a little bit of more. I'm not sure if they even function as the system does. But real quickly, basically how you, if you could advance to the next slide, maybe I'll explain this and then go back. So this is kind of how the cards. This is just another image glimpse of like the mystical aspect of the cards. If you have a circle that's diameter, or that circumference is 22, its diameter is 7. If you divide 22 by 7, you get pi, basically, the ancients' approximation of pi. So again, you see the 7 by 7 grid we were just looking at, with the 3 left over on the top. And again, Thomas Morell, this is from his book, it says, its span with the number 7, that's holy. So I'm going to go back briefly to this and then finish. So how does the quadration function? The real mystical power of this whole system is in the process of this ordered shuffle. So if we take the cards the way it was with the hearts, clubs, diamonds, spades in an order. If we fanned out 3 and put it in one pile, fan 3, put it in a second, 3 in the third, fan 3, put it in a fourth. If you did that until you had 4 cards at the end, you drop 1 in each pile. Basically, you're creating a calendar. So it's like, spreading the elements out to the whole celestial zodiac. and with the last 4 being maybe, the cardinal points, those 2 lines that form the cross. If you stack them again and you put 1, 1, 1, 1, and deal the deck out that way, it'd be like maybe fixing those 4 on the earth itself. Now, if you take that pile and start from this top corner and fill out your grid, this is the configuration you get, which is, you could say, the life spread of the cards, how the elements actually manifest on this planet. So if someone who knows the cards really well, they can take that other plate, the spirit plate, and this life plate, and by having them stacked over each other, look at correspondences between which cards are in the same part of the grid. They could look at where is your birth card in terms of its relation with the planets. Then also beyond this card, there are 13 cards in a line which form a whole spread for one person. So say you were the 2 of spades. So this would be your Mercury card, your Venus card, your Mars card, your Jupiter, your Saturn card, your Uranus card, your Neptune card, your Pluto card, your Trans-Pluto card, your Magi crown card, your Moon card, and your Phoenix card. So that I could, just by looking at those cards, have a lot to say about your entire life kind of arc, because those cards deal with the elements having to do with all kinds of aspects of what you're up to in this life. Likewise, if I take all these and put them back in order, in this order, and do that same quadration, I would get another plate. If I gathered them, I would get another plate. Total are 90 plates, and then it wraps around to this plate again. So when we're talking about cycles of time, we could talk about the plate for someone's entire life. When we look at the first plate, we could talk about their first year or their 91st year. Again, we could look at smaller cycles of time. You could talk about a weekly plate, or you could talk about a plate of a period of months. So the system is vast, and whoever it was transmitted to really got this amazing glimpse from mystery. So I want to just finish with this and say, it may be hard to read, but I wanted to show you a visual of all the birthdays. So Olney Richmond in his book had a complex mathematical way to calculate what your birth card was. I don't know if he was hiding this. It wasn't until later teachers of this card system brought this out. But once again, you can see, there's almost like a fractal nature to this system. It's almost like we're looking at a two-dimensional or two-dimensional linear way of looking at something that's more fractal. Just by looking at this, you can find your birth card. Oh yeah, go ahead.
So once we know our birth card,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm 6 of diamonds, then what? Right?
Well, yeah. So once you know your birth card, so there's things that the number, and then the element, have to say about the energy that you're working with in this life. And then, again, so we could just start there. And then if we looked at the spirit and the life plate, like I mentioned, those 2 plates, we could talk about major themes, just with that information. And then again, we could look at your year plate. So the age you are, the year you are in this year, we could look at that plate and then also follow those cards and see what they say specifically about those energies. This system also, you can do relationship stuff as well. So again, you could look at the spirit and life plate, and you could see your relationship with other cards, and by counting your distance from them, you would have a Mercury, Venus, Mars relationship, and on and on. So you can see correspondences that way as well. I'm just going to just quickly go through this so you can get kind of a flavor of the realms in which each of the suits generally have. So this would be like some guiding questions related to heart cards. And again, it could be that this is your suit, or it could be that this is a card that comes up within the spread of time that you're looking at. So there are different resonances with those. Thanks. Oh yeah, sorry. So the back button. Yeah. So it says hearts. What do you want from your relationships? What does belonging mean to you? So again, it's the fire element. Thanks. So clubs, it says, what are your plans? What do you need to communicate, study to bring them to fruit? So the club suit is the wind element, so it governs thoughts and plans, ideas. Thanks. So the diamond suit, the earth element, what do you value? What do you stand on? What do you stand for? So, oftentimes card readers will just talk about the diamond suit within just the frame of money, but it's also values as well, as the earth element is the most solid element. And the spade suit, it says, what serves your spirit and your health? What work calls you to act? So, spades govern spirit, health, work, but also I would say transformation, like I mentioned before. And then the last one I think is the reference.
That's water. Spade.
Yeah, water, exactly. Yeah. So these are the references for people. If you, if I have your email, then you'll get these. This is a site I'm working on. It's still kind of young. I'm still putting it together. 52secrets.com. Again, if you are interested in looking at any of those books on your own, I have my own scribed collection, and my name is on that is Axis, and then the word Axis backwards, Axis 6A. Thomas Morell. These are kind of in order of the people that I really respect who are putting this information out there. Thomas Morell, these ladies, they're kind of both should be in the same line. Edith Randall, Florence Campbell. Their book you can find on eBay. It's kind of expensive because it's actually typeset and mimeographed. They put it out like in the 70s. So it's not so easy to find, but it's out there. And they give really kind of hard-edged descriptions of the cards. So they're kind of no nonsense. They're not like just trying to make people feel good. They're really like, what are you about? This is what I think you're about. And it's cool too because they kind of make explicit what they're reading, how they're interpreting. So they were definitely great teachers of mine in. Again, when you saw the lines of, say, the Mercury line and the Venus column, how those modulate the number in the suit, like that. So they taught me a lot about that, and in their descriptions, they're explicit about that. Arnie Lane, he put out a book called What's Your Card? And again, he was in the late 70s, early 80s. Has some really, really good stuff about people's birth cards and how to do spreads. Ian McLaren Owens, this guy owns a publishing company. I think it's Samuel Weiser, maybe? Or no, it's one of the mystical publishing companies. He's their main editor. And he's really into this stuff. He has a lot of self-published stuff I have yet to really dive into. oraclecards.com, really, really interesting site. whoever put that together has been really diving into this stuff, showing connections between the cards and the Staff of Hermes and the tarot as well. And then Robert Camp, last but not least, Robert Camp. I would caution you, like his books are really great initial inroad, but I think he took so much time to try to make it accessible, and there are definitely some things missing as well.
Is that the one most written for the layperson
Yeah.
to understand?
Yeah, I guess I would say so. Yeah,
That's what
yeah. The first book. What is it called again? It's called
Love cards and Destiny.
the other one, Destiny Cards. I would say is the really first one. But he also has a book called Exploring the Book of Seven Thunders, which really is, if you're interested in diving into it more, has some really good stuff. Any questions?
What is Scribe? Is that
It's like a book. It's like a book community site. So, there's
like
some.
www.scribe?
Yeah, scribe.com. So a lot of these books they're so old that the copyright is expired.
Right.
So, and they've been digitized by Google or whatnot, and then people have uploaded them on their own. So it's a great repository for old mystical texts like that.
Cool.
Anything else? Anyone else?
John, could you put it back on the slide where so we can access
The
it to look
birthday.
at our
The birthday.
Oh yeah, sure.
Thank you. Unless people need the references.
Yeah, I think
We need some.
I might be asking a big thing. If you want to do it later.
No, that's fine. Yeah, so I'll leave this up for a while. Just ask, if you're walking around, just be careful of the projector. It's kind of on a precarious perch. But
So is there automatically like meaningfulness to the number of the card? Right,
Yeah.
the ace.
Yeah.
These two.
Yeah, that's
Or
right.
six.
So aces would be like it's again, if we go back to number, I didn't spend much time with number, but like one is like really about initiating something, and it's also ones can be kind of loners or self-starters or just do their own thing people. So that might ring true. Amanda and I both are twos, so so both of us are the same cards. So twos, really about partnerships.
And Manu's a four of diamonds, which is two of spades added.
Right.
Together make a four of diamonds.
Right. So
Nicely done.
yeah. So if you look at again, there's the sequence from 1 to 52: hearts, clubs, diamonds, spades. So if you look at the lineup, there's a numerical number, and if you had two of spades, you get 4 diamonds. So and then threes would be, it's like 3 is like a real creative card. Again, it's like expanding off. But it also can be a card where you're dealing with indecision or worry. Is because again with that creativity, there's like a lot of options. 4s are really stability, but also could be stubbornness as well. 5 is like it's like a expanding off of 4, so it can be a card of expansion and growth or moving. So there's a lot of change that's involved with 5s. 6s, it's like a balancing act, almost like weighing things out. It also can have to do with almost like karmic connections. So part of that weighing is like really checking out cause and effect stuff as well. 7s, it's a mystical, holy number, maybe because it's 4 directions, center, above, and below. But those last 3, that spirit line really is a powerful force for 7s, where it's like there's there's really a notion of having to let go and let God, kind of with sevens. 8's a real power number. It's like a double 4. So 8's are really have to do with power. So again, it's like power, how to use it wisely. 9's are a number of completion. So it's, it's almost before a new 1. Like 10 is a new 1. So the 9's are, either, there's a real focus on that energy of completing and letting go. There's like the end of the manifestation of one thing and the beginning of another.
They're the death card in Tarot.
Yeah. And again, it would be, that's right. And then 10 is a real power card, like I said before. It's like a huge gathering, maybe on another dimension or another level. 11's...
Is a 10 like a level 1 an octave higher?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 10 is a 1, an octave higher. And then 11's are, the jacks are, with the face cards, they're kind of like a trinity of, the jack is neutral, the queen is negative, feminine, the king is masculine. So the jack is like, coming to their own in power. So there's like some questions of like the right use of power, that come up for jacks. Like, how do I use this power responsibly? Also, like very, another super creative aspect. Queens are using their power in terms of service, and the kings are, assuming their role of leadership, through initiating stuff too, in their own unique way. Again, it's all modulated by the suit as well. So if you looked at those questions, those govern how the energy of the number connect with the elements.
Did you talk about the 8s?
About the 8s?
He said 1 instead
Yeah,
of
ace. Yeah, it's like initiating something, like starting something out anew, but also, really standing on your own. Like, ace, it's a unitary number, so it can be like either doing things on your own or being, like either on purpose or also, being isolated sometimes and creating your own center. Nothing to do with what you're up to. But anyway.
Yeah, you can come up to John or I after and just tell us your part and we could give you like a sentence.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah.
If you're like a 10 of diamonds, we could just take
I mean, and that's what we can do too.
So did you take all of this, all of the research that you've done, and everybody's own system of interpreting it, and then how to do the spreads and sort of create your own? I mean, it's because there's no specific. It doesn't sound like anybody gave the whole story.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think Olney Richmond had the whole story, but he didn't really share it all. Edith Randall and Florence Campbell, they studied with him and his daughter, and so they were the ones who really brought it out, and Arnie Lane too. Those folks really made it, the stuff explicit. Yeah. But even the stuff like that they put out, like I mentioned Robert Camp's book of the Seven Thunders, there's stuff in there that is even more sophisticated, some stuff that I didn't find in any of their work that he shared. So he would be like, again, like second or third generation from when the order of the Magi went above ground. So yeah.
But also John's background is in Tibetan Buddhism, so I think that's why he talks more about the elements. Kind of brings it all full circle in that.
Yeah, I was interested in figuring out, was it just an affectation? Were they just trying to legitimize their tradition by saying it was from antiquity or not? So, but again, I think to really, just maybe nerded out on the material, but just to give an overview of the material, like how is this working on these levels? But again, I would say it's interesting that gypsies have used cards to tell fortunes. It's not like the kind where you would shuffle the deck. you could do a psychic reading, for a moment, but you can see it's like it's based on it's based on the movement of the planets and the elements.
So you take your birth card, and then the cards are in a certain order, and you lay out the plates. Is that what you're saying? Based
The
on
plates,
card?
yeah, the plates are all set like 1 through 90. They never change. But then you find yourself within a plate.
And you
and then-
interpret based
yeah,
upon that.
Yeah, exactly. And then the plate could be a different lens, right? From a whole life to a year to
I
a week
see.
or a day.
Right,
It could be like a card of a day or an hour.
right.
So yeah, we're talking about different cycles of time. So thank you.
Could you just make specific what you mean by a plate?
Yeah, so that ordered shuffle thing that I talked about, if you do it from the one that it's all lined up and you lay it out in that 7x7 grid and let the last 3 be on the top, that would be the first plate. And then, or that would be the life plate. And then if you gathered it up and did it in order, you would get the second plate. And there's some interesting things, I won't go on and on about this, but there's some cards that remain in the same place every single time. Like the King of Spades remains in the crown in that spot every single time. The Jack of Hearts is kind of like almost in this cross, like a Christ card in the very top center every single time. There's some cards that are semi-fixed, so they'll switch places. And then there are other cards that are roving over the whole system.
Could you go back to that spirit plate
Mm-hmm.
and then let someone volunteer their birthday for you to kind of give a little example?
Okay,
Or
you're
no?
kind of putting me on the spot here.
No, okay.
we can do a little bit of it. We'll do a little maybe.
Or one.
Okay. Oh, so do you know what your birth card is already from what you saw before? Or what?
Someone shout out their card.
Ace of diamonds.
Ace of Diamonds?
Oh, that's me too.
Oh, great. Okay.
Okay, two for one.
Okay. So yeah. So Ace of Diamonds. You folks, in the life plate, you're in the Jupiter line, in the Neptune column. Okay. So what I would say would be that there's, Jupiter always is an expansive energy. It's like it blesses kind of whatever comes into its view. So there's a way in which Ace of Diamonds people, you guys are starters. You can create stuff out of nothing just because you're aces, because like that. But also, yeah, so you're always blessed by Jupiter's influence. So whatever you move towards, it gets expanded. Now, the realm, I would say it's also modulated, though, by Neptune, which has a kind of dual kind of thing going on. Neptune is governs spirit, but also illusion, too. So there's this kind of question, like, what am I creating? Is it my spirit's work, or am I, what illusions am I dealing with here? There are things where, it could be hidden things coming to light. So that's also like a lifelong kind of meditation for you folks because of that position. Let's see, I think I have it right here. I can look at or if you go back one more too, again, I can look at the spirit plate. So on that plate, you folks are right here. Again, you're in the Jupiter line, but you're in the Uranus column. So that position, Uranian energy it's super revolutionary. So it's like the stuff that Ace of Diamonds are doing is, stuff that the world hasn't seen before. It governs the internet or whatever's new and fresh, And it also has this notion of like breaking things down to build them up, to put them back together better than they were before. So there's a way in which you're not just like, out with the old, it's not like just, like a punk rocker who's just like, anarchy is freedom. It's like, if you're breaking things down, it's because when you bring it back together, it's even better than before. If we go forward to the next one again. So let's see. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Trans-Pluto. Okay, so this is like, these two cards would be, these two pair, this is your Pluto and Trans-Pluto cards. So those are kind of like your shadow work, and then what is, you can kind of, gather to deal with those challenges that you face in life. And I think this is, it looks like the Queen of Spades, and that's the Jack of Clubs, I think. I think it's the Jack of Clubs. Let me check. Yeah. So Queen of Spades in Pluto, again, it's in the realm of work, health, spirit, transformation. So it's like it's saying, because it's the shadow thing, and it's also like a royal, it's saying that maybe some of the challenges are having other people's opinions or work control you, is like something that really pushes your buttons, or something that you find like you have to deal with again and again. You could consider that shadow work as being the kind of momentum that it takes for you to step out on your own and do your own thing. Again, you could see the relationship between that shadow work and how aces initiate something in their own direction. They're like, okay, I'm done listening to everyone. I can do it best on my own. I'm just going to do it over here. If you could just leave me alone, I can make this happen. So maybe there's some of that going on. It's saying like, you might be tired of working for others, and that's all that stimulation it takes to deal with that shadow. Or there are those questions you have, how much do I need to actually rely on others? How much can I actually do on my own? That could be like kind of the question of the shadow.
Like people non-Monsanto.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, can I do
There's
this?
a better way.
Do I want to talk to these people? Is this worth it for anybody? And so the Jack of Clubs in Trans-Pluto. So this would be like, again, like what you want to leverage, to deal with this shadow work. And that would be, the Jack of Clubs, again, it's like ideas and plans, the wind element. So the Jack is like kind of experimenting with new ideas and plans, like trying to find his footing, as a royal with the power that's given to him. So, it's kind of calling you to expose yourself to new knowledge and information. It's like almost like a kind of initiation into a new way of thinking is the way out. And again, what's interesting too is like you folks are again solitary folks in a way, but interestingly enough, the way out of the shadow is through. This could actually be a person with face cards. They could show up as people. They could be principles. So this could be a person. This could be like someone who, instead of just doing it entirely on your own, someone who has some amazing insight that you make your own, that does help you. So there's a possibility that the way out could be that as well.
Any Jack of Clubs in here?
Nice. And then I'm going to just quickly go through the last card. Let's see. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Okay, so this is your Phoenix card. So this would be like, by the time you draw your last breath in your life, looking back, this is what happened. And this is a card of partnership, right? So it's saying that it's partnership around ideas and plans. It's saying that as much as you did your own thing in your own corner or realm, this happened. Somehow there was a meeting of the minds. Somehow there was a way in which you were connected. You got connected, and that these ideas and plans didn't just live in your own head. So yeah, so thanks for letting me just quickly do that. And for full readings, if people want in the future, or if you know folks who do, I'm charging $75 for an hour. I can do it via Skype. I can do it by phone and record it in either, and then send you folks the plates so you can take a look at the material after we're done and follow it. And again, like I said, we could look at life path, relationship stuff, specific stuff to 1 year, and or yeah, any frame of time you want, down to a week.
Great.
So yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.